Hi, we're back. Hopefully you can hear me better this time. We are at the gallery at URI Providence, which is curated by Stephen Pennell, and I am going to pass the microphone over to him.
Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you came here. This exhibit that we have this month for Women's History Month is by Madeline Maxey. It's called Visions of Flora and Related Landscapes. Madeline Maxey has been an artist since she was a child. She was born in D.C. and she went to school at the Maryland Institute College of Art, and also to RISD for 2 degrees. She moved to Rhode Island in 1982 with her husband, who is a math professor at Brown University, and they travel all over the world for his work and hers. So I'm going to take you on a tour of this group of work, which is by no means all the work that she's done in the last 25 years, but this is from the last 25 years. She's a painter, but this piece is also collage. There's paper with Japanese characters on it. You will notice in her landscapes that it looks at once like you're looking down at it and also across, but the perspective is foreshortened, and she usually puts something in the foreground to set that up. We'll also see some of the same pieces used in multiple works, which I'll point out. She has favorites, but each work is quite distinct. This piece here, this painting is from a trip that she made on her way from Japan back to the United States through Hawaii, and this was their last night. So that's actually, I wouldn't have known this if she didn't tell me, that's her husband Martin and Madeline and her friend David, who met them there with a lei around, because you throw a lei in the water and then you will come back again. Again, we have the foreground with pieces, and it looks kind of like you're looking down. You're looking across at a foreshortened, post-impressionistic perspective. I also find that some of her clouds look rather like shells. She tends to use color that is true, but different. She's a colorist, and her sense of color, so the ocean is blue, but it's very Madeline blue. This next piece is very influenced by Gauguin, and we have in the foreground this bush, which sets up the foreground, the outrigger, the person, which is kind of unusual for her, these flowers, which are true to the landscape. But again, the landscape looks somewhat foreshortened. The next one is called "Oh Come Let Us Adore Him." And if you look at it, it just, you would think it's a group of shells. It's with a cloth underneath. But it's actually, this is the Virgin Mary. She's wearing Della Robbia blue. She's kneeling before the Christ child. There are doves over here. So while it is true of the landscape we saw on the right, at the same time, there is another layer, and Madeline has a great sense of humor. So that comes out in a lot of her work. The piece on the right, a still life. This pot appears in a number of still life pieces, and this cloth underneath, but everyone is compositionally different, and exciting and original and unique. This diptych, again from Japan, and we have the Japanese temple gates, and we have the cloth, the paper, with Japanese characters. This huge big creature, and Madeline was very excited that her diptychs, there are two of them in this show, that there was space for them to be seen and appreciated. I'm going to take you over here now to another pair of still life paintings. This red pot you will see frequently. She loves teapots and pots of other sorts, and of course this shell we've seen several times. Again, notice that the table, where it looks like we're looking down on the table, and we're looking across, and this is the rug beneath. It's sort of foreshortened, so her playing with perspective is really quite exciting. Another still life with flowers and shells and pots, vibrant color. She really is a colorist, truly. Take you over to this still life. This pot is one that we'll see a number of times, and this teapot, again, this sense that we're looking down and looking across, but the perspective has been foreshortened. And what is real is why these are on the carpet. I really don't know. This drawing is after a very well-known Japanese woodcut, but it's actually a coffee cup. And Madeline has brought around the image that wraps. In the foreground, we have a big clove of garlic, but that wave, woodcut wave, is sort of a notable image. But of course, Madeline has seen those in her trips to Japan. We have a series of work here that have a koi fish kite that was laying about her studio, and she decided to add it to the landscape. And so we see it, but each time it is different from the last, and each time you see this bowl, that pot, it's color-wise and compositionally unique and very exciting. The next one, we see that shell again, the Jesus shell, and a group of teapots, look like they're miniature teapots, and fruit, and the koi fish windsock is underneath. Another with that pot we saw earlier on. The squash we've seen a couple of times. This bowl in different configurations, in different colorations. Again, a pot that we will see repeated, and the bowl, and the squash, and the shell, and the kite. But every composition is really exciting and different. This one, totally different coloration with the windsock and that pot again. As we come around here, Madeline's husband actually works in airflow. He's an applied mathematician, and so he's been involved with helping deal with airflow for COVID and the pandemics. And of course, we're living with masks, and so they became a part of her still life. And as time progressed, and we're looking at more masks, and then the flower arrangement is masks, which is kind of fun and playful in spite of the pandemic. I'm going to take series, and they're local, and they go from summer into the fall. There's cut sunflowers. This is a series of 4 pieces put together. Diptych, triptych, quadric. I don't know. I can't. but it's really quite wonderful with the hat and all. This landscape of the sunflowers, we have this garden path and the sky in the background. It's moving on into the late summer, and so they're starting to fall over. We have the wheelbarrow over there on the side. And again, the sunflowers are hanging low. We have the garden path. We have this craggy tree, and we'll see this craggy tree in a lot of different parts of the world in Madeline's work. Again, garden path with the sunflowers, really exciting and vibrant. It's getting a little bit more yellowy. The summer is moving on. Again, with the garden path, the stream, the yellowed ground, and the sunflower is kind of bending. And the last one, which I think is really wonderful, it's the old sunflower couple. They are leaning together like an old couple leaning on each other for support, which I think is quite delightful. This still life looks rather like a landscape. So we have the stream and the yellow ground and this whole cluster of objects. And this is called Who's on First, right? Yes, Who's on First? Have to check myself. We have a series of bamboo landscapes that include the streams, the bamboo in the foreground and midground, and bridges, which are really quite lovely, and very, very vibrant color. The purple path, and again the purple path with the lanterns that are lit. This is called the Birds of Coronado. In Coronado, in California, there's an Air Force base, and so the birds are planes. And I think, this is just me, I think the clouds look like shells. And then, of course, we have the yellow ribbon around the bamboo tree. So that's, again, Madeline has a lovely sense of humor. The next one is her mother's planter, and the rug beneath it again is kind of looks like it's standing up. So this play with the foregrounded image and the background being foreshortened is frequent in her work. This is the second of the diptychs, and we see again the bowl that we saw earlier, this pot we saw earlier. There's a bracelet that her husband gave her, a number of teapots and garlic and shells, and this still life with this cloth that we've seen really reminds me of the landscapes. Another floral still life, with shells and gourds, and it looks like you're looking down at the table and across, but foreshortened perspective. For something completely different, pussy willows. And in addition to the pussy willows, we have this sort of magical yellow petals flowing in the air being green and alive. We have another pussy willow painting. This one, a pot on a table with a cloth with garlic. Very different coloration, very different composition, but equally delightful. I'm going to take you up to, there is a series of 5 drawings, and Madeline does drawings, and then she often does studies for paintings, and then paintings. So we have cacti and flowers, and then the knuckles of the bamboo trees, the birds of paradise being the flowers. And as we continue up the stairs, we have several more series of paintings. There are 65 in this exhibit. This painting is local, with 2 mourning doves and the garden path and the stones and the flower in the foreground, setting up the perspective in the background. This painting reminds me of a Georgia O'Keeffe flower, but it is a hillside. And then, of course, we have these clouds that, to me, remind me of her shells. A monoprint, Japanese monoprint. Another painting of that vase, and the trumpet vine, and this cloth, and a window in the background. This vase also we've seen in several pieces, but again, each time we see these favorite objects, they look different. We have a whole series of studies. I'm going to and take you over to, this is a whole series from Devon. Madeline's husband, Martin, grew up in Devon, and Whitcomb is very rough terrain, and so this whole series of graves, this one reminds me of the 3 witches from Macbeth. They seem to have faces, and they're looking at us. I just want to point out this craggy tree, which is local. It's local to Devon. It is not from Japan, and yet we see these same gnarly trees in the Japanese landscape. These 2 crosses are spring crosses, so we have spring flowers. This one looks like there is a woman spirit behind, sort of embracing the cross. So there's this sort of cross resurrection, death and resurrection kind of thing, which is spring as well as religious connections. The next 3 are in Spain. This looks very Van Gogh, with the texture in the painting. It's a hotel courtyard in Spain, a favorite of Martin and Madeline. And these 2 are also in Spain, with gates into courtyards. And then I'm going to take you into the last group, the ones on the right that we're coming upon are gilded, and they are from Japan, bamboo, and also those craggy, gnarly trees, which are quite stunning. These 4 pieces in a row. These 3 have sort of one similarity, and the 4th another. But again, we see in the landscape, water and path, and the flowers that are natural to the environment, but remind me of others that we've seen. Again, this craggy tree with the pathway by. The last beautiful landscape. Boy, those clouds are moving. They're really moving. And the last 2 local garden with the stream and bridge across. Again, the sense of you're looking down and you're looking across at the same time. And they're just stunning. And I'm so delighted to have Madeline's work here. This will be up through the end of the month, so please stop by. I have tours on Thursdays and Fridays from 3 to 5, at 3, 3:30, 4, and 4:30 from 255 Westminster Street, which enters into the gallery. And of course, we'll be here tonight. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Stephen. This was an amazing exhibit. Love it. I love the colors. I love the mood. I mean, absolutely stunning. All right. Well, this wraps us up here at URI, and we are going to head over to AS 220 very shortly and speak with Neil Walsh over there.